Hey folks, welcome to Unqualified, the fantasy football podcast that's been going to the same Flag Day party for 7 years, and in no way is that depressing. Since 2017, I'm your producer Rob Diesendorf here with Sean Brady and Scott Johnson, two fantasy football rivals that have been sabotaging each other for years, but they decided to come together to help you win your league and make your friends look like idiots. How's it going, fellas?
So the same party for 7 years, since 2017, not confusing at all. If you don't get it, get with it. That makes total sense.
If you don't get it, get out.
Get out.
The math, just do the numbers. First off,
60% of the time, every time.
if we're going to talk about math, we need to talk about how well we counted cards today, this weekend at the blackjack table for Flag Day. The table was hot. Let's leave it at that.
Not me.
Got to be honest, it was a little ice cold to start. We were doing a little introduction, like, hey, here's how you play. I mean, we already knew how to play, but some of us didn't. And then it was a little warm, and then it would get scalding, and then it would go like a little cooler, and then it would go scalding again, and then found out that we had no chance of winning any prizes anyway, so like, all right, we're done.
I don't know about you guys. I mean, I lost all of my money immediately. Like, literally within like 5 minutes,
You did.
I was gone.
We were standing right next to you most of the time. You lost all that money.
Very much akin to my fantasy style.
Oh,
I
nice.
go hard and fast, and I burn out.
We burned out pretty hard last year too, though. So, but we're back. It's episode 2.
But the thing is
season.
that for 7 years, I still don't know what Flag Day is.
So,
But I just go to the party.
I don't know either. You want to give you a background on it? I think
I
I've given
just
you
know
guys
that
this.
it's the day I go to the party.
But-
I think that's what Flag Day is. It's the day I go to the Flag Day party.
The you cuties out there that don't know what Flag Day is, so it's at the Johnson household residence on Long Island. And 7 years ago, that was the first party we had. My sister graduated from high school, so we had a little high school graduation party. A couple, good amount of family, stuff like that. Next year, I graduated from college, 2014, so we had my college grad party. That's what started like the raucousness. What's that word I'm looking for?
Raucousness is one way
It
to
is
put it.
raucous.
You could also just say
Raucosity.
chaos is another
Chaos.
word you could use.
Champagne
Raucosity.
shower, we'll say. Yeah. Maybe 7 shotguns or 8 shotguns throughout the night in the shotgun corner. That's how to drink a beer, guys out there and girls out there. And then the next year, we were looking at the calendar. And we're like, we don't have a party. And we looked at June when both those 2 years of the parties were. And we were like, hey, Flag Day is on June 15th. I think it's June 15th. We were like, let's have a Flag Day party. And it's America's least celebrated holiday, but it should be the most celebrated holiday. And it starts this summer.
Well, we are celebrating it, I would say, more than 99% of the population.
Yes.
Easily.
Of the world. I think
yeah.
we actually are the number one celebrators of Flag Day in the world.
Honestly,
I would even go as far to say in the universe.
I agree. And is it an international holiday? I actually don't know this.
No,
know.
it definitely isn't. 'Cause
I think it's supposed to be all flags,
Oh,
right?
really?
But we still have
I
not
think
hit
it
the
might be.
point of like, what are we celebrating?
I think it
Like,
might
are
be
we
all
celebrating
flags.
that flags exist?
No, sorry. It's
Are we
stupid of me. It was just the U.S. Yeah, it's
Are we celebrating their design?
it commemorates the adoption of the flag of the United States on June 14th. Sorry, I was wrong. 1777, good year, by resolution of the Second Continental Congress. It's been going on for
what were
hundreds
they-
of years. So we're just
What were they doing
commemorating.
before the flag?
What did they do before the flag?
We were
Yeah.
British colonies before
Yeah.
the flag, I think.
Yeah,
So they
1776.
adopted a flag, and then they were like, "What's different now?"
No, 1776, we had the Revolution. And then the year after, 1777, June 14th, that was when Flag Day started. I don't know what months the Revolution in 1776 was. Could be off there, but I'm assuming it was later in the year, and we didn't have a chance to have Flag Day in June that year.
I just got to say, it's really kind of making me upset right now that all of those
Over.
early leaders, George Washington, Betsy Ross, all those great early Americans never got to come to the Johnson Flag Day party and see what it's all about.
That's true.
That's
Gamble.
heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking.
We had a new layered
They
added
would
to
be
it this
proud.
year, too. Food trucks.
They would have loved the food trucks. Yeah, George Washington would have pulled up at that barbecue food truck, and we would have found him passed out in a bush
Absolutely.
2 hours later.
Eating mac and cheese.
That's why
and, he's a big
That's
food truck
what
guy.
he was known for. That's how he got the name George Bush.
George Bush.
Oh, sorry, George Washington. My bad.
Yeah. John Adams Bush. Any crazy
what
things
we would
that
do
happen,
is
though?
we would trash talk the Jets jerseys if they were around.
It was a hot topic at Flag Day, actually. Just, it was actually extremely controversial, which I didn't see coming because me and Scott feel one very particular way about the Jets jerseys, which is, of course, that they're awful and should be abolished immediately. That was actually a big debate with our fellow Jets fans that we were partying with. Didn't seem like a lot of people felt the same way. Scott, what do we hate so much about these Jets uniforms?
I'll give you like a bunch of reasons. They look like a college team. Second reason is they look like a Division III college team. Third reason is they look like a Canadian football team. The fourth reason is they look like an arena football team. And the fifth is it just looks stupid as heck. The black ones are cool. I'll give them that. We should have had black alternate uniforms like throughout our existence, but it's supposed to be a throwback to like when we won the Super Bowl 50 years ago. Get over it. It was 50 years ago, and that's like the color, like the green color scheme, but come on, man.
I feel like that's kind of embarrassing to be like, we won it 50 years ago.
Literally
Never
all
again.
year last year, they had at the games, they were like, hey, here's Joe Namath. We won the Super Bowl 50 years ago. I don't know if you knew this, Super Bowl III, guys. It was like, all right, are you serious right now? Half a century ago?
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing that I just cannot wrap my head around is the green helmet. It just, like, I get the concept. I get why they needed to change because it would a white helmet wouldn't look great with a black jersey.
No,
like,
true.
It just looks terrible. Like, no, I'm not saying every green helmet doesn't look good, but this one is awful. And it's what they're going to wear all year, and it does not sit right with me. We're now, not only are we not going to be, like, maybe we'll be better than last year, but not only are we going to kind of suck, but our jerseys now suck. So it's just the worst.
Yeah, and honestly, when they announced it and they had like Sam Darnold running out with it and Jamal Adams. Like Jamal Adams always looks cool in a uniform. I got to be honest, Sam Darnold, I love him, but he in that green helmet, I couldn't see it. And honestly, this is weird because chrome helmets I'm usually a fan of, like Baylor and Oregon on college teams though. It's a college uniform thing. It's not an NFL team thing.
Yeah.
It's just not. Having said that, before we get into the episode, which, by the way, is free agency and trade recaps and all the movers and shakers, before we get into the AFC and then NFC in that order, let's go over, on that same vein, let's go over the bottom three uniforms you got in the NFL currently right now, and then we'll get into the top three uniforms. You got all these changes to teams, new looks. Let's talk about the uniforms, too.
Oh, so we're going with the looks here, the looks episode. I would say my bottom three uniforms... I hate the Lions, first off. Like, gray is not a statement. It is lazy. Gray uniforms they just show a lack of effort and a lack of passion. The Lions' gray uniforms make me want to turn the television off whenever I see them. So that's my number one bottom uniform. Two, I'm not a big fan of the Browns because they literally have to write the name of their team on their pants in orange lettering with a brown background. I don't understand who thought that brown and orange was a good color scheme. It's terrible. And then the Bucks. The Bucks used to have really cool uniforms. They used to be kind of like plunderers, but like I don't know what it is about the new look Bucks. Like maybe it's the numbers or something. They just don't sit right with me. So those three I would say are probably my bottom three uniforms.
I feel like the Browns are just like a big moving company.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. They might as well be uniforms for that. The Bucks, they have like zigzag like numbers and like yellow accents. It is kind of weird. It's like that looks like a college team too, uniform. I'd say my bottom three, I'm sorry, I'm just putting the Jets in there. I do not like them. I do not like them.
Yeah, they deserve to be there.
We should wear the black alternate ones every single week because that's like maybe bottom five. That's not bottom three.
Yeah.
And then the Titans, no.
Yeah, I agree. Ugh.
It's terrible. It's tacky, and I hate it. And then this is my bottom one, the Cowboys. What color? I think we've talked about this on previous pods. What color are the pants?
I could not tell you.
Are they white? Are they off-white? Are they teal? Or are they gray or silver?
It changes
just looks like
week.
crap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on. That's lazy. It looks like a sweatsuit. You're right about the Lions gray ones.
The Cowboys, it's a grout fit.
No,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Lions. The Lions are the guy for the
Lions?
That's literally, yeah. I like how we're doing
you don't know
some
what the color
fashion
of the pants
here.
of the. Yo, what color are the pants of the Cowboys?
Exactly. I'll let
It's
you.
like a
I'll let you chew on that.
shiny
It
teal.
looks like fresh titanium.
Off shiny teal
That's
and
what it
fresh
looks like.
titanium. That's like the.
But
best
it's like kind of
descriptions I've ever heard.
bluish also.
It's got a deep bluish hue. In the
All right,
plumes.
well,
It's got a bluish hue to it.
I got a quick honorable mention too. Bills, bleh. Cardinals, I don't like, and then the Jaguars too. And then that's like the bottom 6 that rounds it out. I just had to throw those in there too.
the Jaguars used to have the absolute, maybe the worst uniform in NFL history when they had that two-tone helmet a couple years ago.
Oh yeah.
Thank God they moved on from that. Now they just went black and white because they literally needed to go with anything better. Let's talk about some good uniforms though, because let's be real, not all of these uniforms suck. For me, my number one uniform in the NFL, the Falcons.
Oh yeah.
Like looks alone, like there are a few things more intimidating than Julio Jones coming out in the Falcons uniform, especially their home alternate, which has that like old school black helmet with like the old school like Falcons logo on the
like
side.
the Michael
and
Vick one.
Or they wear the red helmet with. Oh man, that is
I
just
agree.
It's baller.
as the kids like to say these days, drip. they have the drip.
Badass.
And
Is that what the kids
Vikings
are
and
saying?
Saints are way up there too. Love the all black Saints uniforms, especially when they wear them at home, especially on Monday Night Football. Like that's just, you're not winning that game. Doesn't matter.
That's true. I'll go I'll go the opposite order. A couple honorable mentions. The Broncos, I think, are really cool. Especially a couple years ago, I think they had an orange alternate, or they do now or something. I think it's pretty cool. Dolphins alternate uniform, like that teal green, I think is a pretty cool combo with the orange, even though they're going to be terrible. And then the Raiders got to go all black and a little silver highlights, not a silver uniform, but a black uniform with silver highlights. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the top 3 besides that, Seahawks. I think it rounds out the in the third spot. I like the Seahawks uniforms, especially those like chartreuse highlights.
Oh my god.
That's a word. Look it up. And then the Texans. I don't know why I hate the Bills and like the Texans, because I feel like they're kind of similar, like color scheme. But I like it. Texans. It's like a all American uniform. And then the number 1, hands down, 100%, always will be, Chargers.
Ooh,
Especially
the powder blues.
powder blue alternate ones. Those are baller. You look at those on any game, it's game over. Just like the Saints on Monday night.
What about you, Rob? What do you think? Favorite uniform?
Well, I was looking at the Falcons, and their black uniform to me just looks badass.
Drip.
Yeah, I agree.
That's gonna be my new term for the year.
But I always like
drip.
the Giants. I always like the Giants blue.
I almost put them on my bottom 3.
Ooh.
Really? Well, fuck you.
All right, we talked about
They
uniforms for
even
way
have a
too.
blue jersey this season? Where's the blue?
They have to have blue. It's the
Oh,
Giants.
their red jersey is trash, and they're white. Oh my god!
Yeah.
What am I looking at?
Do you take back what you just said to me?
This is awful. Never mind.
Do you take back what you just said to me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are the blue uniforms?
I don't know.
I mean, the Giants are known as Big Blue, but I agree that they're getting dangerously close to that bottom tier. I think when we come back, we talked a lot about how these teams look. We got to take a look at some new look players in different spots. When we talk about some free agents and big trade candidate? No, not candidates. Trade
Happenings.
victims almost in certain cases. Coming up next.
All right, let's get into it. Free agents, trade acquisitions, maybe a couple of drafted guys. We're going to do the AFC first and then the NFC in the next section. Just an aside, we're only going to talk about the brand new additions to these teams and how they potentially affect a couple of guys in those same positions.
And before you guys get started, I'm going to... Hang on. Before you guys get started, I'm going to need you to periodically check in with me here and just dumb things down and just kind of sum it up for me and tell me what I can take away from it, because I cannot follow all these names.
Will do. And speaking of dumbing things down, acquisitions was the word I was looking for at the end of the last segment. For the life of me, I was like, what do you become when you get traded? I literally went to victim before acquisition, which lets you know where my mind's at. So, Scott, you might need to dumb things down for me, too, at this point. So
I got you, man. So we're going to talk about some acquisitions that the Patriots made first. We're going to the AFC East, talk about the reigning stupid champions, New England Patriots. So a couple of additions. We got Damian Harris as a running back, is a new drafted guy. Wide receiver Demaryius Thomas and N'Keal Harry. And then tight end Benjamin Watson. They had Austin Seferian-Jenkins, but he got canned, and they lost Rob Gronkowski to retirement. What are we thinking for the Patriots? Any changes? They're still going to be pretty productive?
Until they drafted N'Keal Harry, Demaryius Thomas looked like he was poised for possibly like a late season renaissance. Based on the way they aggressively filled that role in the draft, it kind of just says they're not really like sold on him. I think he'll be an interesting, like he could be like a bye week fill-in type guy, but as like the third, maybe fourth option in that passing game, he's not going to have enough value to stash for the whole year. Ben Watson, though, I mean, tight end sucks. So whoever's playing tight end, I know there's some news that like Zach Lacoste is skyrocketing up their draft board. Whoever winds up catching the ball at tight end for the Patriots will have some value. Obviously, he's not going to be Gronk level, but tight end sucks so bad that you might as well just keep an eye on that.
Yeah, and running back wise, Sony Michel is still the guy there. They still have James White, still have Rex Burkhead, I believe, but Damian Harris is more of a stash guy, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. But if you have Sony Michel and you're drafting him, I would definitely draft Damian Harris as the new addition. Let's move on to our beloved New York Jets.
Yeah, I guess.
Beloved?
Sometimes.
Nah.
Sometimes.
I hate them. But we're going to talk about coaching changes next episode. Adam Gase should bring some good value to these guys in the offensive side of the ball. However, one of the marquee free agent additions, Le'Veon Bell. What are we thinking for his value for this year?
Well, we're definitely going to talk about how Adam Gase supposedly feels about Le'Veon Bell in our next episode. But, all situation aside, Le'Veon Bell is a stud and is an RB1 and is now on the Jets. So I feel like people are less excited about this than they should be. Like he was like 2 years ago, he was the number one overall pick in fantasy football. So, and he's not like, it's not like he's like 32 right now. Like, yeah, he's starting to get up there in age, but it's not, he took a year off. He's got one fewer year of tread on his tires. I love Le'Veon Bell this year. I think he's going to be a stud, and I think he opens up the passing game for the rest of the team. I love him, and I think Jamison Crowder is not. It's kind of a sneaky good acquisition as well.
I agree. I think James Crowder's a solid like wide receiver 2 with Enunwa being like the slot guy. Crowder could play the outside. I think Chris Herndon is one of the guys that's going to take a huge step forward in tight end. Yeah. So I would take a big look at him, and Crowder is going to only help with Herndon. Robbie Anderson should have a pretty good year as well. But yeah, Le'Veon Bell, I think he's a mid-range running back 1. Yep. But if it weren't for the situation, he would have been a back-end running back 1. Having like without Darnold potentially taking a step forward and Herndon and Robbie Anderson, kind of laying some defenses off of him. I think he's going to catch a ton of balls though. That's going to be his saving grace and vault him into like mid-top running back 1. So
going to catch a ton of balls. Got it.
He's going to catch a ton of balls. Yeah, Rob, how you doing?
I'm good.
Okay. We're not even going to talk about the Buffalo Bills because they had some additions, but John Brown and Cole Beasley. Miami Dolphins, not much going on at all, if anything. Josh Rosen got traded for, but who cares? Let's move on to the AFC West. We got the Kansas City Chiefs. What do we got for any changes? We have Carlos Hyde added to the backfield, and then Mecole Hardman, a rookie wide receiver drafted because of Tyreek Hill's uncertainty.
Well, first off, Damian Williams was a stud towards the end of last year and definitely in the playoffs last year. And like I think any running back that starts for the Kansas City Chiefs is going to be like a high-end running back 2 at minimum. So I think Carlos Hyde has some really interesting sleeper value here. He's a guy that's starting to slow down, but again, he's an injury away from like instant prominence in in terms of being probably a high-end running back 2 in that offense. Could not have landed in a better spot. He's probably going to get touches regardless of Damian Williams' health. So I kind of like him a lot. He picked a perfect spot for himself.
I think Sammy Watkins is one guy I'm going to be on the lookout for because Tyreek Hill might be suspended. We don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty around him. Mecole Hardman was drafted, so obviously there's some concern in the Chiefs locker room and front office about Tyreek Hill. So Sammy Watkins could be a guy that takes another step forward if he can stay injury less.
Injury free.
Injury free. Jesus, what's with our words tonight?
We're dusting the cobwebs off.
Yeah, moving along in the AFC West, Los Angeles Chargers, really no changes, but besides Tyrell Williams going to Oakland, so that opens up the door for Mike Williams. I think he's going to have a huge year and not supplant Keenan Allen, but he's going to be like the number one guy on the outside. I think he could have a really like 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns kind of thing. And Hunter Henry is back from injury. He was out all year last year. So 2 guys to keep on the lookout for. Other than that, no real changes. Denver Broncos, not that many changes either. They got a new quarterback and a new tight end. What do you got for the Broncos?
Well, really quick before we get to the Broncos, the fact that the Chargers did make a lot of changes, that says it all to me. That's an offense I'm investing in next year because they have some continuity. A lot of the same faces, guys going to step up and take on bigger roles. I love when a good team doesn't make a ton of changes offensively. I think that's a really, really good sign for them. Broncos side, Joe Flacco, I don't know what they're thinking. Like, did they not watch football for the last 5 years? Like, maybe they just saw his highlights of when he won the Super Bowl for the Ravens. I don't even know what year that was. Look,
2011.
This is a, I guess, an even keel, like lateral move from what they had last year, but it's not inspiring any confidence in this offense for me. Joe Flacco is as uninspiring as it gets.
Compared to the last 2 years of Flacco stats, Case Keenum the last 2 years actually had better stats. Like everyone thinks Flacco's a better quarterback, but I think this offense is going to take a big step backwards. And Noah Fant, we said kind of stay away from rookie tight ends, but he was a new addition, but I don't think there's anything you need to do there. Moving on to Oakland, soon to be Las Vegas Raiders, the Hard Knocks team of 2019. So Isaiah Crowell was added in free agency, but out for the year with a torn Achilles, which is a killer for them. Josh Jacobs is the guy. We talked about him last week. And then wide receiver, they got Antonio Brown, one of the marquee players in the league, and Tyrell Williams as new additions on the wide receiver core. So what are we thinking for Oakland?
First off, Antonio Brown, like, he's still Antonio Brown. I think the second round is probably it's fair market price, which is probably what you're going to pay to get him. Tyrell Williams, to me, is the value here. I think Tyrell Williams,
I agree.
Like, he needed to get out of Los Angeles to get a bigger role for himself, and playing opposite AB is exactly what the doctor ordered. I hope Derek Carr can take a step forward with these guys because Tyrell is like full of potential next to Antonio Brown. I think he's really the steal in this offense, probably more so than even Josh Jacobs. I think Tyrell's the guy that I will probably own the most on this team. And I'll probably try to stay away from Antonio Brown, to be honest with you, because Carr is not the same guy as Big Ben. So I think AB takes a slight step backwards.
I agree, and I think Carr's deep throw prowess is actually underrated. I think he had some good connections with Amari Cooper back in the day, like 2 years ago. And then obviously the year before he left, they didn't have that great of a year. But Carr, we know what he is at this point in his career. He's a 24 touchdown, 16 interception guy. Tyrell Williams could get 6 to 8 of those touchdowns, and a lot of them could be deep throws. So I can see him surpassing 1,000 yards for sure.
And we're going to make a lot of fun of the Raiders probably for the entire year. But there's something to be said for they're starting to finally get like John Gruden's guys. Now, whether they're the right guys to win a championship remains to be seen, but at least you will see more productivity from this offense because they're getting guys that he wants as a coach, which is really important.
Yep. And Mike Mayock, like as much as we make fun of their draft too, Mayock is a genius. He used to be in the draft room for ESPN and NFL doing coverage for the draft, and he knew like literally every single player. So we'll probably talk about them more in the coming months, but let's move on to the AFC North, which is the used to be the Steelers division, might be the Browns division now. Steelers, not many changes, and we kind of talked about some last week, so we'll move on from them. The Baltimore Ravens, so Joe Flacco is gone. Lamar Jackson is the quarterback now, basically running back as well, and then Mark Ingram was added as a running back. So what are we thinking for the Ravens?
I mean, clearly they're doubling down here on they're going to run the ball more than any team in the NFL. And it makes sense math-wise when a team has to account for Lamar Jackson in the running game. It's going to open things up for Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards, kind of playing second fiddle there. Maybe their rookie they just drafted steps in. But Mark Ingram, I think, is a guy starting off the year, here's my plan for Mark Ingram. He's a guy I will definitely draft, and he's also a guy I will definitely trade after he has some really good early weeks because he's going to wear down. He's an older guy, but I definitely see him having some success, especially early. And I think again, he's a guy you can kind of play that card on and get yourself some nice value.
I agree. Let's move on to the Cleveland Browns. We got a lot of changes here, so take me through it. We still have Baker Mayfield. We still have David Njoku. Still have Nick Chubb and Jarvis Landry, but added two of the top guys. I mean, character concerns aside, Kareem Hunt as a running back and Odell Beckham Jr. as wide receiver. What are we thinking for the Browns? Any changes that are worth investing in?
I'll take Kareem Hunt first. First off, the suspension is way too lengthy to draft him. It's just you're going to end up having him sit on your roster the entire year. Meanwhile, Nick Chubb I think is a stud. So there's no guarantee that you're getting not even a half of a running backfield workload out of Kareem Hunt when he does come back. So I'm staying away from him. The upside is tantalizing, sure, but for me that's Nick Chubb's backfield until proven otherwise. But I do love the Odell pickup. I mean, how could you not? It's just he's tailor-made for Baker Mayfield. I think if you have to pick between him and Antonio Brown in the second round, it's a no-brainer. I'm taking Odell.
I would take Odell as well. Hot take from a friend of the pod, Greg Nugent. He said that Jarvis Landry is going to have a better year statistically than Odell Beckham, and I can get on that bandwagon. I mean, Odell's going to get his for sure, but he's taking the number one guy. It's a new system, new quarterback that he needs chemistry with, and Jarvis Landry could be the slot guy and second wide receiver going against second and third cornerbacks. So I kind of like it. I like the hot take.
I can see it. I still think Odell's too damn good for that to happen, but I can see Odell's the kind of guy you can try to take out of the game via game planning as a defense. Jarvis Landry is just going to touch the ball so much that it's impossible to take him out of the game plan. Right. So I can see the thought behind it, but Odell is too damn good.
Also, because of all these changes, Baker is, in my mind, a top 5 quarterback this year. He's maybe not drafted as that, but I'm going to try to get him in every single team I have. But anyway, moving on to the Bengals. Literally no changes, so we're going to skip them. AFC South, last division in the AFC. We got the Colts, who added a couple of second-tier guys. They got Spencer Ware as running back, Devin Funchess, wide receiver, Paris Campbell as wide receiver. Any notables there?
I'm uninspired, to be honest with you. We soured on Funchess really hard last year. For good measure, for good reason rather. And Spencer Ware is kind of like a career backup. He's got some potential clearly, but it says to me, their moves say to me that they trust Marlon Mack, T.Y. Hilton, and their infrastructure to get things done. That's what it says to me. Yeah,
so an offense to invest in, like you said about the Chargers before too. Texans, another offense to invest in. No changes whatsoever. Dante Foreman is a guy to look out for. We've said his name every year since we've had this pod, and he's always hurt, but Lamar Miller is just kind of a steady Eddie guy and a boring one at that. So Dante Foreman could be a guy. But let's move on to the Titans, and then we'll talk about the Jags. But the Titans added Ryan Tannehill, quarterback?
Yeah. Why?
What?
Why did they do that?
Why would you need to do that? Two injury prone. So you have two injury prone quarterbacks. Yeah. You'll probably get 8 games out of both. Good for you.
Beautiful.
I think I'm assuming the reason they did that was because Marcus Mariota's hurt a lot, but Tannehill is also hurt a lot, and they have the same QBR, same QB rating their whole career. So I have no clue. I think this is a prove it year for Marcus Mariota. I think his 5th year option is next year. So this is hey, Marcus, if you screw up this year, first of all, we're going to bench you, but second of all, we have Tannehill for the next couple of years, and you're out. That's what it is to me, but I wouldn't draft either one of these guys as a quarterback.
Yeah, this team is going to take on the personality of their head coach, Mike Vrabel, and that is tough, defensive. They're going to run the ball. Derrick Henry is kind of an interesting pick this year based on how red hot he was at the end of last year. But I'm not really loving this passing game. Adam Humphries supposedly chose the Titans over going to the Patriots for more money. So I don't know what he was thinking. I get maybe they could pay you slightly more, but you're choosing to play with Marcus Mariota over Tom Brady? Yikes.
I will be honest, I like that core of Corey Davis, A.J. Brown, and Adam Humphries for the next couple years as the 3 top wide receivers. But I don't know. Delaney Walker coming back from injury. It's got to look out for. Maybe in late, top maybe 6 to 10 range for tight ends. Then the Jaguars, we got Nick Foles added, Alfred Blue as a running back, Chris Conley as a wide receiver, second-tier guys. Nick Foles, are we drafting him or even considering it?
I'm not touching a single Jaguar, to be honest with you. I don't love the... We're going to talk about their coaching changes next week. I don't get it. I don't get what they're trying to do. Like, are they trying to win a Super Bowl? Do they think they're good enough to win a Super Bowl? Nobody knows. I don't know. So they're a team without an identity. They don't have a direction. And for that reason, I'm staying away from them. There's too many moving parts here. Look, I love Nick Foles. He was a very important part of my brother's life for the last 2 years as an Eagles fan. But the sentimentality wears off very quickly in the NFL, and Jacksonville might be a mess.
Hey, it's Tom Coughlin, man. He's trying to get his guys. But that wraps up for the AFC. Find us in the channels about anything else we missed.
I actually wanted to bring up a point that Sean made before and to kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Take a look at some of this data and see the changes that these teams are making. And what are big picture, what do you see these changes meaning for each team? Like you said, the Chargers aren't really making a lot of changes. Like, who do you see is covering up a lot of weaknesses or showing their strength?
I would say what a lot of teams seem to be doing to me, especially with their wide receivers, they seem to be trying to mimic what really good teams have at wide receiver. For example, let's look at who's got a really good receiver core, like the Chiefs.
Falcons.
Well, the Chiefs and the Falcons. Like the Chiefs for the last couple of years have had Travis Kelce, a really big physical inside playmaking tight end. They've had a speed option in Tyreek Hill on the outside. They have kind of a guy that can do both, Sammy Watkins, and they have a bunch of upside everywhere. So teams are starting to try to fill out types of guys. So, for example, the Raiders decided they wanted to get their do-it-all guy in Antonio Brown and then get a deep threat in Tyrell Williams. They're trying to kind of mimic each other, which makes sense, but it also doesn't make sense because it's not going to work for everybody. When the Titans get Adam Humphries and A.J. Brown to complement Corey Davis, it looks great, but at the end of the day, they still have a quarterback throwing them the ball that is going to get hurt in week 3. So, it's admirable that they're trying to mimic each other, but I don't think it's going to work for some of these teams because they don't have the infrastructure to get it done.
Gotcha.
What he said.
Yeah. Let's go. I'm back.
Hell yeah, bro.
You know it.
All right, now that we talked about the AFC shakers and bakers and makers and stuff, acquisitions and changes, let's talk about the NFC. So, NFC East, we got the Philadelphia Eagles as our first candidate here. A good amount of changes, honestly. Jordan Howard as a running back, who should be the bell cow. But we also have Miles Sanders, the rookie running back, who we talked about last week. And then wide receiver, Deshaun Jackson and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. What are we thinking, Sean, for the best changes so far and any guys that are fantasy relevant here?
Well, I love Miles Sanders, and I think Jordan Howard, based on that draft pick, will probably not get a huge workload. He'll get the ball. We know that. He's going to siphon carries away from anybody. It's what he does. But for me, the biggest free agent that they picked up is Deshaun Jackson. I think he's just all he's going to do is stretch the field for them. I think that means great things for Alshon and Zach Ertz and Nelson Aguilar. He's not going to be a guy that you count on week to week fantasy wise, but he's going to make things tick for them because he's going to make sure that other teams need to respect him and roll the safety help his way, which is going to help everybody else.
Yeah, I love all these changes and what they do specifically for Carson Wentz. I think he was on his way to a insane season. Was it last year or the year before he got hurt?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah, before he got hurt before their Super Bowl run. And then Nick Foles took over. But all these changes only bode well for Carson Wentz. And even the second tight end, Dallas Goedert, could take a step forward this year, too, with all these changes. Deshaun Jackson opening the field, a better running game. I think Jordan Howard's just going to be the goal line back, unfortunately, but still something. But moving on to the Dallas Cowboys, not too many changes. So we don't have much to talk about. Just one quick thing. Randall Cobb was added. Interesting, I guess.
Not really. I mean, he's He's capable. I would say this is interesting. Where I think we're going to talk about this a lot next week, but their coaching change as far as offensive coordinator is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of excited about this offense. Low key excited about the Cowboys. I think they actually can be pretty good on offense next year. And it won't just be Zeke. So we'll have to wait and see for that. Randall Cobb is not going to light the world on fire, but he definitely helps a little bit.
I think it'll be like Cole Beasley, but a little bit better last year, right? He'll probably have like 900 yards, 6 touchdowns kind of thing. Like rosterable, but not really startable. Moving on to the New York Giants. We got Daniel Jones added and Golden Tate as a wide receiver as the Odell replacement. Golden Tate has one of the lowest yards per catch before contact. Sorry. Yeah, yards per catch before contact and before the line of scrimmage, like in the NFL. So he's really getting the ball in space and he's trying to make something with it. I mean, he's in his 30s now, and I just don't think he could do it as effectively as he could in the past. I mean, you saw the Eagles like barely used him last year, and they had trouble figuring out what it was that he could do. So I think Sterling Shepard, with Odell now out, is kind of like the guy there, but I don't think that bodes too well for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, I mean, unless I'm getting Saquon, this is an offense I'm probably going to stay away from. I would have been so excited about Golden Tate going there had they still had Odell Beckham on their roster. But with him as like the silver lining, it's just not good enough. I don't think he's a guy I'm going to count on. I probably won't own him on any teams.
I agree. I won't either. Another team I will barely own is the Washington Redskins.
Yes.
Got Case Keenum and Dwayne Haskins added as quarterbacks. Nothing really there. We talked about the running backs last week. I don't see anyone here that I want to own, to be honest with you.
Yep, same here.
Let's move along to the NFC West, shall we? We got the Los Angeles Rams. Also, not that many changes like the other Los Angeles team, the Chargers, but one in particular that we did talk about last week, so we'll touch on it quickly right now, is Darrell Henderson. Todd Gurley might be more injured than we think. That knee injury is a pretty bad one. I think it's like tendonitis and just like re-aggravation of previous tear of the ACL. Darrell Henderson could be the backup, complimentary to start, but also take over eventually. So what else do we think for the Rams?
I mean, it's crazy to think that this passing offense could take another step forward this year, but they can. And don't forget, all three of these guys were at bare minimum wide receiver 2s last year when healthy. So, yeah. I mean, that and the stability's there, just like we said with the Chargers earlier. This is a team I'm definitely going to get every piece of that I can.
Yeah, love that. One team that you could probably stay away from besides Chris Carson, Seattle Seahawks. Barely made any changes. They added DK Metcalf. They had Doug Baldwin retire, but not too many changes there. Tyler Lockett could be the guy. And Chris Carson, I really like Chris Carson this year too. Rashad Penny might take more away from him, but let's move on to the 49ers. We got some good changes here that we want to talk about. Jerick McKinnon is back in action after missing all of last year. And then Tevin Coleman they added as well.
Oh, yeah.
Jerick McChicken.
Rob's guy.
And then wide receivers, they added a ton of targets for Jimmy Garoppolo, who also will be back. What do we think of the 49ers?
The Tevin Coleman signing was a head scratcher on the Tevin Coleman side for me because it's kind of a crowded backfield. It's going to be really interesting to see where things shake out there. They're paying a ton of money to Coleman and McKinnon together. So I'm going to assume that Breida takes a back seat. Coleman, we know, played for Shanahan in Atlanta, so you got to assume he's going to have a pretty sizable role. But like McKinnon signed a huge deal last year and was going to be like the guy. So it's going to be really interesting to see how things shake out. I think ideally Shanahan's thinking this is like Coleman and Freeman.
Yep.
But I don't think that's necessarily the case, especially because they don't have the established passing game yet. It's really just Kittle and then a bunch of guys that need to emerge. So definitely intrigued. I think Garoppolo can be kind of a breakout guy this year, but I don't know if they're just trying to go Atlanta light. I think they should just try to be San Francisco, you know?
Yeah, and I'll shout out friend of the pod, Andrew Feldman, big 49ers fan, big Jimmy Garoppolo fan. I think he thinks he's going to take a step forward this year, and I agree with him. But could only go up from last year after being injured all year. But I actually do think that this will be more like Coleman and Freeman than you think, because Dante Pettis was having he had strung together a pretty good couple of weeks there last year. And they got Deebo Samuel, who could be like the main guy there as well. So regardless, I think someone is going to emerge there. Marquise Goodwin had some good years, good weeks 2 years ago too. I think regardless, they're gonna have the pass catchers like emerge. Doesn't matter who it is. It could be 4 guys, every given week. So I think that running game is going to be a lot better, and this team is going to take a huge step forward this year. I think they could be a playoff contention.
So you're thinking that Jimmy and the running backs are the type of guys you're probably going to own on that team? Obviously, besides Kittle, like everybody wants Kittle this year, but that's where the value is.
I think Jimmy is like a second quarterback kind of guy. Like if you take a Carson Wentz and he's like injury prone, you could take a Jimmy G as your second quarterback, kind of like a Kyle Murray, kind of thing. Like maybe they'll be a top 10. I don't know. I think the running backs, I would take Jerick McKinnon over Tevin Coleman. I would take them late. I mean, I don't think like they're necessarily going to be starters right away, but they're pretty good stash pieces. Devontae Freeman, like he wasn't even drafted the year of Tevin Coleman's rookie year, right? But no one knew like where he was coming. Like Tevin Coleman was supposed to be the guy. He was drafted in the 3rd round in 2015 or whatever. And then Devontae Freeman all of a sudden in week like 6 just hit it big, and then the rest of the year had over 1,000 yards. So could be Jerick McKinnon. Like why not take a flyer on him? And then the passing game, I'm just a big believer in Kyle Shanahan and his passing prowess. Moving on to the Cardinals. So new coach Cliff Kingsbury, but also new quarterback Kyler Murray. And then a lot of pass catchers, Hakeem Butler, Andy Isabella, Charles Clay. What do we think of all these?
Not only those guys, they also added Kevin White. Yeah, remember him? Like 7th overall pick by the Bears a couple years ago.
Forget him.
I mean, like someone's going to get lost in the shuffle here, and my money's probably on him because it's already happened to him before. I love everything they're doing over there. We're going to talk about Cliff for a long time next week, so we'll leave that until then. But I think personnel-wise, like they could not have made better changes to their passing game, and that bodes really well for David Johnson going into next year.
All right, moving on to the NFC North. Got the Chicago Bears, the former NFC North champions last year, right? Couple of running back changes: David Montgomery, rookie, and Mike Davis, who was on the Seahawks, and that 3-headed attack last year. Pass catchers not too much. Cordarrelle Patterson, who's more of a kick returner, but running back situation. What do you think of the Bears situation here?
I honestly have no idea. You know how much I love Tariq Cohen, but they signed Mike Davis and gave him a pretty sizable contract. Like, kind of, I'm assuming, thinking he would be like the 1A to Tariq Cohen's 1B or vice versa, and then they go out and pick a steady Eddie guy that demands touches in Dave Montgomery. So honestly, it's probably a backfield I'm staying away from unless I get Tariq Cohen late. He's probably going to take a little bit of a step back numerically this year, maybe not play wise, but to me, I think Cordarrelle Patterson's actually kind of interesting because he's such a interesting, like, versatile gadget player, and on another team that might take a back seat to other stuff, but he is in an offense that will definitely utilize him. So he's not someone I'm going to draft, but he's got my eyebrow raised. Like he could have a pretty interesting role there.
Yeah, and I think one guy to not forget about is Mitch Trubisky. He had a pretty good year, good second year last year. Took a big step from his terrible rookie year. And now could he take an even bigger step a la Jared Goff last year, right? They're 1 year apart. Jared Goff had a terrible rookie year. Second year was much better, like Trubisky's last year. And then Jared Goff's year last year was top 5-esque. So Mitch Trubisky, not saying he's going to be top 5, but could definitely be like top 8, I could see, especially with the new additions to the running game and kind of reinvigorating that. Packers, not too many changes, so we're going to skip them. Vikings, same thing. We talked about Alex Madison. Could be a good complimentary back. We're going to skip them because they barely had any changes. And then the Lions are also going to skip because we just hate them.
Yeah, I would say with the Packers and the Vikings, like that's the kind of continuity that's going. Again, similar to what we talked about with both LA teams. That's what you want to see from a good offense. They're not trying to like tinker too much, and that's perfect right there. The Lions, like CJ Anderson, is kind of a bummer going there because Carry-On was kind of one of my guys that I would be excited about this year, but I don't love that. I don't really love anything the Lions do, to be honest with you, so I'm not really surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I still like Kerryon Johnson. I think C.J. Anderson is kind of washed, to be honest with you. But he was running under a really good line with the Rams last year. I think the Raiders cut him. He just doesn't have that much separation, so I think Kerryon is still like the guy. But yeah, late round guy. Moving on to the NFC South. Saints, again, continuity. They added Latavius Murray. And one guy I do want to mention is Jared Cook they added, who is like salivating about owning Jared Cook in every single league that I can. Drew Brees looks for tight ends early and often, hasn't in the last couple of years because he hasn't had a guy. And now Jared Cook, one of the hottest tight ends, even at his age, I'm taking him.
This is like a 5-player offense, a 5-starter offense, and 2 of those starters, I'm talking about fantasy starters here, are brand new. So they made 2 moves that they needed to make, and they were the exact moves they needed to make. Latavius Murray, I love in that spot, and believe me, I'm a noted Latavius Murray hater from years past. This is the perfect situation for him. He doesn't have to be the guy. He's going to get a ton of touches. Obviously, he's going to be able to stay fresh because Kamara's got a sizable workload. Perfect landing spot for him. I think he has independent value. I think he's a guy you should draft, especially if you're a Kamara owner. And then Jared Cook, I'm with you. Like he's honestly, based on this landing spot, right behind the big 3 because like it could not have been a better fit for him.
I agree. Yep, that could be a top 5 tight end again. It's the second year in a row. Moving on to the Panthers, not too much. I mean, Cam Newton got to check his shoulder injury. Will Grier could be like I don't think he would be a starter, but that could affect every other pass catcher in this and running back even. One guy I do want to point out, they added Chris Hogan, sure, but Curtis Samuel is in the mold of third-year wide receivers that have the ability to now break out. I mean, he was a second-round pick. I think he was Ohio State a couple years ago. Rookie year didn't do anything. Second year didn't do much, but still showed some flashes. Now he could be like the second or even first guy. Everyone's going to say DJ Moore. DJ Moore is probably going to get drafted in the 6th, 7th round, which I think is insane, to be honest with you. I think that's the biggest reach in the draft, honestly, in my opinion. Curtis Samuel, I think, is going to be the number 1 guy there this year.
See, I kind of like DJ Moore, but I do see the trepidation there. Chris Hogan hopefully could be a stabilizing force for them. But let's be real, that offense revolves around Christian McCaffrey at this point.
Absolutely.
So, I kind of like that they're not making a ton of changes as well. That means they think that somebody in that receiving core is going to break out, which I'd definitely like to see. Similar to what the Falcons did, which is absolutely nothing.
Yep, exactly. They didn't really do anything. I mean, they lost Tevin Coleman. Devontae Freeman is, again, the guy. I think he could reclaim a lot of his value that he had in previous years. And the Bucs, we talk about them a little bit. They had a couple of changes, but again, like second-tier guys. They added Andre Ellington. What do you think of adding Ellington into that running back core?
It's hilarious that Bruce Arians is the guy adding him because when he got hired there as the coach, I think one of my opening remarks was like, all right, we know he's going to feature the passing game because that's what he did in Arizona, but like who's going to be his Andre Ellington that comes out of nowhere and becomes a threat out of the running game? We thought it might be Ronald Jones, but he literally went out and got the guy that I was comparing Ronald Jones to, which is Andre Ellington. I still don't think the running game is going to be super dynamic, but I do think it might evolve to the point where it's worth rostering some of these guys. I'm definitely going to wait and see because I'm not a huge believer in any of them at this point. I was kind of hoping they would draft somebody this year, but they didn't. So, I mean, I could see the appeal of Ellington. I could definitely see the second-year post-hype appeal with Ronald Jones, but it's not for me, not worth the squeeze right there.
I think if anything, what Bruce Arians has shown when he was on the Colts and took over as a head coach for a little bit, and then when he was on the Cardinals, is he's a pass first coach. Carson Palmer aired it out. Andrew Luck aired it out that year. Like he's a quarterback guru kind of guy. Jameis Winston could take a big step forward, like top 15, top 10 maybe even. But Chris Godwin is another guy like stepping into that number 2 mold with Deshaun Jackson out. O.J. Howard could be a top 5 tight end in my opinion. Like he's right next to Jared Cook in my opinion on like top tight end breakouts again this year. But this is going to be a pass first team through and through. So I think running backs, this is what to stay away from for sure.
Definitely still bummed that Cameron Brate is still there because O.J. Howard would have been like one of my tight end guys. I do love what this means for the passing game. I think Chris Godwin definitely going to be a hot topic as we move closer to the draft season because, obviously people are going to fall in love with the potential there. The productivity was also kind of there last year. But some people, they have to see it before they believe it. So Chris Godwin, I think, is a guy that we will definitely be talking about down the road as a compliment to Mike Evans in that passing game.
I agree.
So, again, I'm going to chime in. What are the takeaways from all of this? From literally across the NFC and the AFC, who are you seeing as shaping up to be the most active offenses, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I think. A lot of it has to do with like coaching changes, right? There's a lot of coaching changes this year. NFC South, especially. Not necessarily coaching changes, but a lot of changes to like the Bucs. That whole offense and coaching staff. Packers, same thing. A lot of coaching staff changes, but I think overall, like again, it goes back to teams trying to what's the word I'm looking for? Copy, I guess. Other teams. Mimic.
They're looking to mimic.
Jesus.
But if you had to name, if you had to make a bet and you had to name a name, which teams do you think are shaping up to be the most active offensive?
49ers.
49ers. There we go. That's what I'm looking for.
In terms of making like the biggest jump, 49ers are a really, really good one. I would say, I don't know. I think like, honestly, the Eagles. Like the Eagles were really good on offense last year, but
I was gonna say that one next.
Every move they made sense, and and they're so deep now that even if they do sustain injuries, they're in really, really good shape at both the running back and wide receiver and tight end spots. They're good to go. Moving on.
That wraps it up for the free agency trade shakeup, movers, shakers, fillers,
bakers, takers, Lakers,
makers,
fakers,
shakers,
takers.
That episode. So we did a little NFL drafts recap for you. We did a free agency and change and trade changes episode for you. And then next episode, we're going to do some coaching changes and overall scheme changes. So kind of alluded to that, but this episode, we hope you enjoyed it. It was more about specific players. Any other questions or people that we missed, find us in the channels.
I would say we're also starting to enter this era where the NFL is kind of reflecting what we see in the NBA, where players are moving around like crazy.
More power to them.
It's exactly. I think especially as they start to like renegotiate their like collective bargaining agreement. I know it's like the most boring possible thing I could have just said, but as they start to change that aspect of the league, players are going to start to move around a lot more. They're going to start to get a little bit more power. We're already starting to see that struggle, with Le'Veon Bell, Kirk Cousins getting the fully guaranteed deal. All this stuff equals players getting what they want, which is the ability to move around and make the best situation for themselves. And I love it because it means we get to see all this new scenery for different guys in different spots with new coaches, and that's really what we love about the offseason.
Love it.
We also love our sponsor, Taco Bell.
Yes, we almost forgot about them today. How could we?
Big thanks to Taco Bell for feeding America, keeping them safe, having vegan options, and keeping it cheap. That's what we're all about.
Real.
Those are 4 core values of Unqualified Podcast.
If you leave us a review, maybe we'll give you some Taco Bell.
Don't forget to leave your review with your Taco Bell order and your Instagram and or Twitter handle, and we will DM you and send you an Uber Eats of your order.
Let me just say, we're not kidding about this either. Like, this will happen
really not.
for you.
We could do it.
So put it out there.
Maybe.
Like, it couldn't be easier. Well, it could be easier if you go and buy it yourself.
Well, you're not necessarily going to get it. It's just randomly we're going to pick a review, and we're going to make this happen for you.
Well, so why not? Yeah, it's like, you don't want to actually... You're actually losing money if you don't do this.
And food.
It's a good point. Why would you want to lose money?
Come on, you kiddies. Do the right thing.
All right, well,
we'll
see you next week.
See you later.
Well, see you later.
See you later.